What's happening? Welcome to everybody that is watching this on the replay. Today I want to talk about the best thing about manifestation not working for you. And before I start, I want to tell you a story that properly unpacks this ability for us to be able to reframe when manifestation doesn't work for us. So when things don't work in our lives, what is it that we can use to reframe that in a way that keeps us in flow? As you've heard us talk about in this group, you really want to make sure that you stay in flow and starting to feel good. And what sometimes happens is we place an order for something to use the law of attraction to bring into our life. And when it doesn't show up, we start to feel uncomfortable and we start to get impatient. And I want to share a reframe with you. But before I do, let me know your name and where you're tuning in from. And how long you've been part of this group. We're trying to get a sense of who's new here and who's been around for a while. So let us know in the comments more or less how long you've been a member of this group. And I'm going to tell you a story that goes like this. About 10 years ago, I was living in Johannesburg. I had been through this sort of existential midlife crisis of sorts where I had sold my promotions business in South Africa. And I was looking for something else to do. And I had been networking with a few people in and around Johannesburg, and I thought that I was going to be getting into the property game. I thought it would be a nice way to make money. I was interested in property. My cousin was a strong operator in the property market in South Africa. And he connected me with some really cool people, and I was going to be a property dude. And I was excited about it. There were some pretty big hitters in this sort of scene in South Africa with property portfolios that were quite, they had a lot of money and they were moving strongly, and I looked up to a lot of these people because they, in my eyes, seemed to be pretty successful. Anyway, so in this process, I get connected with a guy he's basically a deal maker, and he's got about 20 investors that have got money, and his responsibility is to find buildings and convert them into apartment blocks, and he's talking to engineers the whole day, and he's got big plans, and him and I connect, and I get caught up in this dream of potentially becoming somebody like him, somebody that's doing deals, buying and selling property, converting old buildings into new apartments, regenerating the city center. And yeah, there was a sort of a property boom almost happening. And I was sort of looking for a career path, and I started to connect with this guy, and we spent some time. Eventually, longish story short, we do this deal where he's got a new development. If I can find him some finance, some people that have got investment, to go into this deal, I will get a percentage of the deal, and that'll basically get my foot in the door, and I'll be able to be in the property game and starting to cash flow, and then I can maybe bring some more deals to the table. So this is really my starting point, my chance to get into the game. So I am working, doing deals, phoning people that I know that have got money, phoning people that I think may have money, and asking them if they want to have a conversation with this developer that's putting this deal together. Anyway, long story short, I eventually find someone who's got some money and they're looking to invest. And for me, it's a sizable amount of money. It's like a 10 million rand deal, which is probably like, at the time, it would have been like $1 million. So a pretty sizable deal for a first time. Anyway, and mine's going to be a really small portion of that, but I'd be in. And so we do this, set up this meeting. I bring the developer and these guys that have got money together. The meeting goes really well. And somewhere near the middle to end of the meeting, the guy who's on my side, who's putting this thing together, says to me, "Thanks, guys. Actually, I've got funding for this deal. I don't need your money. And thanks, it's nice to meet you." Swap business cards and left. And I was like, what happened there? The money was pretty much on the table. The opportunity for us to do this deal was pretty much there. And the guy who I just started working with in the last few weeks throws me under the bus and says, "No, we're not going to work with them." Anyway, I felt super upset. I spoke to him. I was like, what about, anyway, long story short, he cut me out of the deal. I felt really upset. And at the time, this had been something I would have been calling in my life. I'm trying to manifest this property deal and this life of being a property deal maker, etc., etc. And that didn't happen. And shortly after that, I was like, maybe I'll just go traveling. And my life in that moment was at a crossroads where I could have been the property guy, and I could have been the guy who went traveling and then realized that he loved traveling and found his sole purpose and had a completely different life experience to the one that stays in South Africa and becomes a property dealer. And in that moment, when you look back at those moments in your life, the things that you thought you really, 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 really wanted that didn't come true, have put you on a path that has probably got you to a place that is substantially more beautiful than I could have ever have hoped for, going down this path, thinking that that was exactly what I wanted to be doing. So for many of us, things don't come into our lives when we want them to. And there's a process in manifestation. It's sort of like level 2, which is like level 1 is realizing you can bring stuff into your life. Level 2 is this part of like, there's something so big and so magical happening here that for many of us, we don't even really know what our truth is. And so when we can just completely trust and surrender to be able to be in the mystery and not know exactly what's going to happen, because this property deal, which seemed so evident and so perfect for my life path, put me into a completely different life path that I'm so grateful now that I'm not a property dude in South Africa. Like, I wouldn't have had half the life experiences I'd had. I wouldn't have met my current partner. I wouldn't be living in Guatemala. I probably wouldn't have lived my perfect day exactly as I'd written it out long before this property deal even happened. These little synchronicities happen in your life, and most of the time we think we're trying to control it. And when you're clasping to something so hard, you forget that there's probably so much magic that you have no idea about. And so, yeah, the best reframe that you can have for when something doesn't show up in your life is that it's probably putting you on a path to something that's so much bigger and so much more rich and exciting that sometimes you have no idea what's even out there. So if you're calling something into your life at the moment and it doesn't seem to be showing up and it doesn't feel like it's going, that's when you're starting to hit that resistance, that sticky point where you actually need to probably just let go. Let go completely of that goal. And if it's meant to come up, it will, but move more into a place of flow and a place of gratitude, and less of like, oh, I really want to make sure I get the property deal, and move more into a place of ease and be like, if this property deal is meant to be, it will be, and I'm going to let it flow. And that would have been a much more graceful way to do it. Life had to put a proper hard break on me to the point that I was like, oh, I've been hard done by. I did all the work. I got the guy. It turns out he even did business with that same guy later. They took some of their money in a different deal and cut me out. And now I'm so grateful. Thank you for not cutting me in on that deal, because I would have been hooked. I would have been completely in this property world, and I wouldn't have been able to reverse out, because now I would have had money in. The decision-making process would have been different. So yeah, in that moment, I'm so grateful that the thing that I was calling in, that I was using the law of attraction to bring in, right now, I'm so grateful that didn't happen. So if you're in that place at the moment, realize you could be in this beautiful crossroads and just let it go. It's just an opportunity for something beautiful to flow back into your life. And on this last point, I just want to bring one piece in here as well, because it doesn't only happen with the physical things, the money, the job. I've seen quite a few people in this group and, coming to me and asking, can I use the law of attraction to bring my perfect partner back into my life? The answer is yes. But sometimes the answer probably should be no. And for many of us in that moment, we're so stuck on making sure we get this person back that we can completely keep ourselves closed down and knocking on a door where nobody's home, instead of letting that go, releasing it, being in your authenticity, speaking your truth to your ex and saying, I really love you. If you and I are meant to be, I would love to have you back in my life. This is my truth. And let them know that in a perfectly direct and honest way, and then step back and let it go. And so rather than trying to make it happen, rather than trying to bring that same person back, is much like trying to make the property deal happen, when actually I should just be letting go. If this person doesn't want to be with me, tell them that you love them, tell them that you want to be with them. And if they don't come back, celebrate the fact that you're probably at one of these beautiful little crossroads that in a few weeks, months, years, days even, sometimes this happens in days. You let go of somebody, you stand in your truth and you stand in your power, and you're like, I'm good, and I know the right person's coming. It might not be this person, it might be this person, but I'm open to whatever happens. You suddenly allow yourself room for magic to flow in your life. So I just wanted to bring that up because I was just meditating after doing a yoga class, and there was a little spot in my back that was like super intense. And part of the process for me of meditating and being aware of what's happening in my body is also a place of being able to be aware of what thoughts are linked to those things. So when you do yoga or you sit in meditation and you suddenly feel uncomfortable, if you can take the time just to focus on that point and just feel into it and notice what thoughts come up, suddenly I was like, whoa, that feels a little bit burny. And the story came back to me and I was like, whoa, I've been tracking and doing quite a lot of work on understanding how our emotions manifest in our body, and yoga and meditation are a really good practice for that. Sorry, I have an eyelash that's come into my eye. And anyway, this thought came back into my head and I was like, whoa. The link that I make there is that I think that many of us are holding a lot of our past stories and trauma in our body. And in that moment of me sitting in meditation, being aware that there was this pain in my back, breathing into it, and then suddenly I had this thought about this deal that went wrong. And I was like, wow, that's probably linked to that little bit of uneasiness that I feel in my back. And I'm like, probably I need to let go of this story. I need to celebrate this. And in this moment, I just felt this rush of like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that deal with that guy on that day didn't happen. And I think it's probably not something that I've given conscious attention to. But when I look at it now, I'm able to celebrate it with so much love and gratitude that, yeah, I'm blessed beyond belief that you said no that day and did the deal with somebody else. Thank you so much, because now I'm here talking to you. So many bad things just keep happening. Should I just focus on my gratefuls? Yes. Bad, let me just quickly give you one thing. Melissa Lema, thank you so much for your question. So many bad things keep on happening. Let me just tell you something quickly about good and bad. The story that I've just told you now about me not having my property deal happen in South Africa, is it a good or a bad story? Right there, what you think. Was that story that I just told you now, was it good or was it bad? Because if you look at it, at the moment, I was like, this is the most terrible story that I've ever happened in my life. I did all the work for the money and I was supposed to get $100,000 worth of blah, blah, blah. Whatever that story is, I am the one that's called it bad. So when you say things are happening in your life, so many bad things keep happening, you have the opportunity in every single moment to reframe it. Yeah, so it's good. It is what you decide to call it. You know, our life and our existence is really a function of us making sense of the world. And so if in the moment you say so many bad things keep happening, what does bad mean? Why do you say it's bad? You know, somebody else could have looked at the same property deal and said, that's the best thing that's ever happened to you because it put you on another path. So in those moments, you get to make the decision about whether you call this thing bad, whether you call this thing good, whether you call it right, wrong. This is the nature of our human experience. And so just focus on gratitude all the time. Look at all the things that you deem to be good. And where you start to feel yourself making a story about something that's bad, take a moment just to trust, to take a scratch my car. Yeah, maybe there's a reason there. Maybe there's something that needs to happen. Like we don't always know what these things are. Maybe it's a call to presence. Scratch my car up was like, okay, I need to be a little bit more cautious. I don't know the story, but in every single moment, you have the chance to reframe your experience and be aware of the story that you're telling yourself. If I went for a trail run last week and I hit my toe super hard on a rock and came down, scratched my entire body. So okay, I don't have a car, but I scratched myself up. In that moment, I could have been like, oh, I'm trying to exercise and the world just keeps throwing rocks in my path. Or you can reframe it and be like, okay, my body's telling me that I need to take some time. I need to take a breath. I need to lean into something else, do more yoga. You know, there's something happening in every single moment and you get the chance to reframe it into whatever you want. And so a scratched car, a scratched body, a lost lover, the property deal that didn't happen, you get to decide in every single moment whether that is a good story or a bad story. And the point of this live stream was to let you know that very often the things that we call bad stories are going to give us the biggest lessons, the biggest amount of growth, or the opportunity for our lives to take a path in a completely new direction. That if you trust it and continue to stay in your authenticity, focus on feeling good all the time, magic is going to happen in your life. So I'm sorry you scratched your car. That's really, really shitty. And yeah, just take a breath into it. Be grateful you have a car. Be grateful that it wasn't a big accident. Whatever you can find, find some gratitude. So thanks for tuning in. I wanted to quickly tell you guys about a 7-day program that's going to be launched in about 10 days time, on about the 10th of August. Time is so weird at the moment. I have no idea what month we're in. About the 10th, it's not this Monday, it's the following one. We're going to be starting a 7-day program. It's super rad. It's called LOA Pregame. And basically what it is, it's a fundamental process to getting super clear on how you can use the law of attraction in your life. It's going to happen right here in this group. We're going to give you more details over the next week. So keep tuning in. part of this program as well is going through this process called LOA pregame, Law of Attachment pregame, Law of Attachment, Law of Attraction pregame, and LOA pregame, and that's what the program is going to be called. And if you have somebody in your world that you want to go through this program with you, invite them to this group, because it's going to be a 7-day journey where we're going to go live every single day, give you a workbook that you can go through and a process that you can use to get the law of attraction to work for you. And we want you to go through it with an accountability partner. So somebody that you trust, somebody that you love, somebody that you say, right, you and me are going to go through this process together, and invite them into the group and tell them about what we're doing, and we'll give you more information about that next week. If you can't find somebody, or nobody thinks that this path is what they should be doing, don't worry, we can hook you up with somebody inside this community. You're not going to be by yourself, but keep an eye open for the LOA pregame starting on the 10th of August. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of this group. We love you. From myself, Melissa, and Matt. Ciao, ciao.